Hi, folks. I have something imperative I want to mention to you. Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, the Democrat of Texas, has introduced H.R. 127, a bill that not only echoes, but actually amplifies the gun registry Hitler used to confiscate firearms in Nazi Germany. Hi, everyone. I'm Gardner Goldsmith for MRC-TV. And now here is the story. Lee's bill, named after Sabika Sheikh, a Palestinian girl killed at the age of 17 in a 2018 Texas public school shooting. Her bill would not only mandate that all gun owners place themselves on a federal registry, it would mandate that all people trying to get a gun or keep a workable gun or keep an antique gun must ask for and be granted a federal license, aka a permission slip from the very entity against which the Second Amendment was written to protect us, supposedly. They'd have to get it for each gun that they want to own. And there's a lot more, putting those historical German gun grabbers to shame. The bill would also mandate that those who desire to own self-protection devices called firearms be at least 21 years of age, unless, of course, they're 18 and enter the military, whereupon they might be ordered around with government guns to conduct unconstitutional activities in the U.S. or around the globe. Yeah. Americans wanting to own firearms would also have to pass a federally created psychological examination in order to get that wonderful government license. The bill also requires passage of a psych test for anyone else who's in the home. It would mandate a government agent doing an interview with anyone's spouse and/or ex-spouses, and boy, that'll work out really well, prior to the issuance of this wonderful license. It would mandate annually the $800 purchase of firearm owner insurance, and guess who will sell it to you? The U.S. Attorney General will get the money, a sum, of course, that would undoubtedly be subject to further political manipulation as collectivists work to make it harder and more expensive to legally own guns. The bill would also ban certain kinds of ammunition, such as .50 caliber and any magazine that holds more than 10 rounds of ammo. And the bill mandates the purchase of a license to get ammo. It would continue to mandate the national background check. It also requires at least 24 hours of training, as well as live fire training for those who want to own so-called military-style firearms, which, of course, as the feds has shown us, is a term that politicians apply to virtually any gun they choose. And the bill would require reapplication for the renewal of said license every few years. And by the way, if you're going to give a gift of a gun, or you try to train your child in gun safety, or you're out on the range and someone asks you if you have any spare rounds because he or she has run out, well, that's prohibited too, with criminal penalties ranging from $10,000 fines to $150,000 fines and up to 20 years in federal prison. It shall be unlawful for a person to transfer a firearm or ammunition to a person who is not licensed under Section 932, subsection C, Clause 1. It will be unlawful for a person to sell or give a firearm or ammunition to another person unless the person has notified the Attorney General of the sale or gift. It shall be unlawful for a person to loan a firearm or ammunition to another person unless the person has notified the Attorney General of the loan, including the identity of such other person and the period for which the loan is made. It shall be unlawful for a person holding a valid license issued under Section 932, subsection C, Clause 1, to transfer a firearm to an individual who has not attained 18 years of age. So that makes it legal for the government to give the 18-year-olds the guns if they're in the military, but they can't own them themselves until they're 21. Ding! Yes, this puts to shame the Nazi gun grabbers and those who preceded them in Weimar Germany. Sheila Jackson Lee swore an oath to protect and defend the U.S. Constitution, which explicitly prohibits any level of government from interfering with the right to armed self-defense. The words "shall not be infringed" are clear and intentional in that prohibition. But of course, since FDR's vile 1934 National Firearms Act, the left has conducted a ceaseless, progressive, and by the way, the pun is intended there, march that attacks our rights, leaving peacefully minded Americans in greater and greater danger of criminal attacks by thugs outside and inside the halls of so-called government. As Stephen P. Halbrook notes for National Review, in 1931, Weimar authorities discovered plans for a Nazi takeover in which Jews would be denied food and persons refusing to surrender their guns within 24 hours would be executed. They were written by Werner Best, a future Gestapo official. In reaction to such threats, the government authorized the registration of all firearms and the confiscation thereof if required for, quote, public safety, end quote. Hitler used that registry to target gun owners and confiscate weapons, the first step in the process of corralling innocent, statute-abiding humans in ghettos, taking their property, restricting their access to food and medicine, and eventually arresting them and slaughtering them in concentration and death camps. The same was done to a smaller extent in Vichy France, utilizing, yeah, you got it, a gun registry created prior to the Nazi occupation. As Mr. Halbrook notes in his excellent book, which I have here, by the way, Gun Control in Nazi-Occupied France, and as the publisher, the Independent Institute notes, decades before gun control became a hot-button political issue in the United States, France, on the eve of the Second World War, struggled with and ultimately adopted firearm registration. In the 1930s, political unrest brought the nation to the brink of disaster, prompting Prime Minister Pierre Laval to impose restrictions on freedom of assembly, decree gun registration, and ban military-style firearms. And the Independent Institute on its website notes this. When France crumbled before the Nazi blitzkrieg in 1940, German soldiers mounted posters declaring that all firearms must be turned in within 24 hours under penalty of death. As the armistice that France signed had stipulated, the French police were to enforce all decrees issued by the German occupation authorities, and the French police had the registration records of firearm owners. But not all the Vichy-era French complied, and it was they who were integral in working with the Allies to resist the German National Socialists. French gun owners who refused to surrender their arms were a potential source of resistance to the occupation. Despite facing repression and terror, resistance members armed themselves and conducted acts of sabotage, provided intelligence for the Allies, and helped pave the way for the liberation. In the mountainous regions, the Maquis, young men who escaped labor conscription, attacked German forces, particularly after D-Day. The socialists of our era now want to mimic the socialists of that time, who established statutes and used government guns to threaten peaceful people and tell them they must register as gun owners, that they must get permission from the gun-wielding government to keep their guns, and must not own certain kinds of rounds. And if present-day Americans think this is hyperbole, if they think it couldn't happen here, all they need to do is look at what the U.S. government did to disarmed American Indians at Wounded Knee on December 29, 1890. These are facts to remember the next time Sheila Jackson Lee and anyone who supports H.R. 127 spout pious speeches about minority rights or make appearances for Holocaust Remembrance Day. Lee seems to like using the race card when it suits her, when her empty blathering about minorities helps her promote collectivism. But as Ayn Rand said, the smallest minority in the world is the individual. Those who deny individual rights cannot claim to be defenders of minorities. Lee is an enemy of individual rights, particularly the right to self-defense. Her H.R. 127 is an affront to the Constitution that she uses to claim her own salary. And it's a continuation of the collectivist mantra that some of the most evil people in history have chanted over and over and over. Well, it's time for us to speak up. It's time for us to sound the alarm about this H.R. 127. And by the way, it stands a very strong chance of passage. I thought you'd want to know. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Remember, if you're watching on YouTube, please make sure that you're subscribed and hit the like button if you do like the videos. And please share these with as many people as you possibly can on all the great new social media sites that are out there. You'll find us always at MRCTV.org. You'll find us at Parler when and if it starts to really open up and get secure again. And you'll find us also on Rumble. All our videos are there as well. You can find us on Facebook. Many of our members are on Twitter still, which is nice. I'm on Twitter as well, at Gard Goldsmith. I'm also on Gab, at Gardner Goldsmith. And if you get the opportunity, please go to MRC-Store. MRC-Store is the Media Research Center store where you can pick up items that allow you to give the message of freedom to a few of the folks out there, and also allow you to support the Media Research Center. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Remember this one, H.R. 127. It's bad mojo. Wanted to let you know about it. For MRC TV, I'm Gardner Goldsmith.